Broadcast.
Hey, we're live.
We're live.
Say hi, Janelle.
Hi, Janelle.
Hey, everybody, we're back to Raven Universe. We want to welcome you all, and for anybody that's sticking around from our newsletter or from last time, I know we're pretty new to the channel, or to YouTube, so it's going to take us a little while to create a nice following, and hopefully we don't bore everybody to death or something. Don't fall asleep on us. So, what's going on with you today, Janelle?
Not much. Just waiting to talk to you so we can talk about characters.
Talk about characters and world building.
Yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can give you a tip. Everybody that's out there that's a new writer and maybe some readers. We're hoping to do Tuesdays be a little bit of both, where we can actually kind of incorporate our world into the YouTube and give a little bit of tips, and then Thursdays a little bit more on helping authors that are starting out, who just getting their feet wet in the industry. So today I was thinking maybe we could talk about. Well, I was thinking more of dark fantasy characters, but I guess characters in general. I just particularly write more in the genre that I love, which just falls under dark characters or dark fantasy characters such as vampires, werewolves, and such. But I guess the general template for all of them would be the same. Any kind of characters that you create, you always want to try to dwell deep in their mind, which is kind of weird in a sense, since uh, I guess it's a little bit of psychology behind it. I know I've studied a lot of books on psychology, and there's a couple of authors. I don't know if I have those books here, where they actually go into psychology and they describe all like anywhere from psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists, codependents, and all that kind of brings out the reality of the character inside the book if you kind of pepper little um, dimensions of their personality into the story. It doesn't have to be filled with it in every page, but if you give it a little bit of personality, where maybe they have a twitch, or they have a spoon out of place, or it just bothers them, and or they have to close a door constantly in order to move on with their day. It doesn't necessarily be little ticks like that, but everybody has something unique about them in the real world. When you study people, like if you go to Barnes and Nobles or restaurants, you can actually just watch them and incorporate that into your characters, and that's what I usually try to do. Raven is more of a quiet character, though. She she has a, I don't know, I guess a kind of an introvert personality, but at the same time, she believes in helping people. I gave her that sense, a sense of morality compared to, the everyday vampires in my world who don't see humans as, living things, just objects for feeding, or like cattle. And then she also had a strong bond with family, and so she's always searching for family. So that's the things that are in her mind. But at the same time,
That
you
and her
want to bring
belief
them out.
too. I'm sorry. That and her belief in God. I'm echoing
No,
you.
yeah, that makes her different. That's a big contradiction between vampires. She actually is the only vampire that still believes in God. she, everybody else is like, yeah, whatever. We're vampires. We're going to hell. It doesn't matter. She kept her faith. Um, what else do you think about as far as character building? What do you use when you're building your characters?
Well, all the teaching books and everything I read, and probably that everyone out there has read too, they always say to get to know your main character before you actually start writing about him or her. Um, and you can do that to an extent, but a lot of times getting to know them comes about as you write about them. Um, for example, um, well, okay, one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your character's point of view on this the subject that your book is on, is incorporated into that, and then you want them to have like values and hopes and fears, and all of that can be written in. Um, for example, Raven and Leonette both have real strong value of family, and that just kind of carries throughout all the books that we read about them. And then for Leonette, her hope is that she wants to do what she was trained to do, and that is to save people from vampires and demons and Lilins and whatever it is in her world that that is not that's bad for the general public, and her, she has this thing about saving people, and then her fear, her biggest fear is that people will find out that she's a different entity, that she's a sheriffum, that she's half angel, and that really scares her. That really worries her. She doesn't want anybody to know that about her, and she's pretty careful about trying to keep it private. That's not to say that sometimes in the book, as we're writing it, that people or other entities, I should say, can guess that she's different, and they know she's different. Maybe they don't know exactly that she's half angel, but they do know, that there is something different about her. And then sometimes your story will develop your character kind of naturally. For example, Leonette, my half angel, half human, is a virgin. And of course, she doesn't really want anyone to know this. This is private. But I hadn't even intended really to bring that subject up, except that as Will and I are writing our new book with the Lobo brothers and Leonette, it kind of comes into play. So there's mention about it. And then she is also kind of becoming sexually aware. And because she's never had, any kind of romance or sex or anything like that, she's like a teenager, just all of a sudden realizing that there's a little bit more to life than riding your bicycle around the block.
Yeah. A little bit more to life than just killing vampires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for her, that kind of comes about when the private detective that she works with touches her. He's concerned, and he reaches over and touches her hand, and that she kind of feels this spark, and she doesn't know what it is. And then in the book we're currently writing, one of the brothers, his name is Santiago, and he touches her too. At first, it's not anything to do with a sexual encounter or anything like that. Is he's trying to help her in a situation, and he ends up touching her. And then later, he also takes her by the hand, and when he does that, she feels the warmth from his touch, and that kind of confuses her too. So those are the kind of things that you might come up against, you might not, but a lot of this is just kind of happens as you write the book, and just go with it. If you don't like it later, you can take it out, but go with it and see where it takes you.
It's a good thing to also make note, even though you put them in the books, try to make a bibliography of things that you've added to characters. That way, like us, once we get up to like seven books or something, and more short stories around those stories, we have layers of characters and timelines, and you want to make sure that you have a bibliography in order to keep a timeline of what your characters have done. I do it through a website. I have a bibliography website, ravenvampire.com, and I put notes. It's not very. A lot of times, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out of my mind and put them in there. So compared to my author website. My author website is where I actually have books and um, make sure that everything is up to date. But my bibliography site, I just decided to do it on a website just in case people wanted to see how I kind of work with things and create characters, um, give them powers, uh, and not necessarily in order to actually, hopefully, not give away um, story endings in the future. I don't think I put any kind of story endings there. Maybe people might figure something out through the characters as our books hopefully get more famous, but um,
or at least
that's a
well known.
good thing to do too. But and I know a lot of other people also use notebooks in order to keep a bibliography, especially if you're planning to have a humongous series, an epic series, or an epic fantasy. You definitely want to do a bibliography.
Yeah.
But it helps in order to keep track of your character's arc, personality, hair colors. And maybe they change purple color to I don't know, red color one day, and you're like, you want to make sure you write that down, and that's because they're going through something and decide that they need to change their attitude toward the world today compared to how they usually are. All that right there gives your characters three dimension. Another thing that I like to do is um, a lot of times happens with my bad guys, which I got to be careful not to make the bad guys more interesting than the good guys. Um,
That happens.
give them a give them complex personalities where their actions are doing something compared to what their inner monologue is saying in their mind. So if they're saying, well, I don't think I'm going to actually eat this orange, but they end up actually physically eating the orange, like in their mind they're like, no, I don't like oranges, I hate oranges, but they eat the orange. Why are they doing that? It gives the reader something to think about. It's like, well, he was saying he hated oranges, but here he is eating an orange, and maybe there's a girl there that likes oranges, and it's like, ooh, I'm going to impress her by eating this orange that I hate. But it goes into, that's a simple example, but more complexity over it. The more complexity you have in a character, yeah, it can become more interesting. So that's something to play around with.
Yeah,
The
touching
books
on
that.
that.
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Touching on that subject about the orange, Lynette, uh, people are always trying to feed her or give her a glass of wine. She hates wine. She hates wine. And she doesn't like it. She thinks it tastes horrible and she just can't figure out how people can drink it. But she will drink it from time to time. And I
Yeah,
guess,
I guess they offered it to her
yeah.
and whatnot. Another good thing about characters is also when you have your dialogue is another thing that you need to definitely work on with characters. Their dialogues actually give a little bit of a window inside your character's mind when they're talking, when they're actually, and you want to make dialogue that's not on the nose dialogue, which is basically saying what they mean. You want dialogue to kind of hide your character's emotion in a sense. You want it to further the story along. All dialogue should somehow further the story along or give a little bit of conflict or a little bit of a window into your character and what to do. This book is one of the main books that I used in crafting dynamic dialogue right there. Um,
Well,
as
since we're
far as
showing books that we have gone to for instruction and stuff, let me show this one too. One is writing vivid characters, and
oh yeah, Ryan
this
Hall is really good at
I
giving practical
yeah
ideas and advice. Yeah, she's really
yeah
good.
she's a good one.
And then if you ever want to know how to create vivid looking scenes and describe a mansion perhaps or a road in the middle of nowhere, buy her books of I think it's what descriptive writing descriptive scenes or something like that, or vivid scenes. That's
Vivid.
similar to what the title of that one was. But yeah, that one will give you a lot of ideas, and it's way more practical compared to some books I've read where they just kind of throw in more fat than actual advice.
Yeah.
Some of them are good, not putting them down, but a lot of times I just want to get to the nitty gritty of stuff.
Well, that's the one thing about her books is she doesn't spend a lot of time talking about she did this and she did that and so on and so on and so on and trying, it's like you go through 50, 60 pages before you get to the point. She goes
Yeah.
directly to the point. She makes her point right off the bat. She tells you exactly what she's talking about and her suggestions on how to do it. And I love that.
Yeah, Ryan Hall. That's definitely like I loved that person. There,
I'm
I
not,
forgot the other one. There's another.
I'm not sure if she pronounces her name Rain or
Oh
Rainey.
yeah, Rain or
I don't know how
yeah,
she pronounces it, but
yeah, probably Rain. Probably is Rain, huh? Okay, I'm pronouncing it wrong, butchering her name right now.
I don't know.
There is another. Probably in the next video, I'll have to make a link. But there is another group. I don't know if it's a couple or another writer that they do very good too, as far as giving descriptions and giving ideas on how to write scenes. Um, but for sure, if you're a beginning writer or struggle with descriptions, and that's one of your main things, give I guess Rain Hall, give her a look. She's on Amazon. You can buy all the Kindles, or you can actually just uh, have order the print books.
Yeah.
Um, and
If
that
you
kind
like,
of leads onto a segue into my other thing that I was going to say is like world building, character building, and world building for me kind of go hand in hand. My characters are usually tied to my world. I kind of use Earth. The history of Earth is already there, so I don't have to do very much world building. I just create. I guess what would it be more of the what do they call it? Not mythology, is it? Not the mythos? No, there's a word for it, but basically, it creates me the history of the vampires. Now, that's what I do create. That's kind of falls into the world building, how my vampires came to be created, and then how the physical bodies change, what their cultural belief is. And then I have my world building revolves around three main species, which is the Nosferatu, the Lilians, and the vampires. And under that umbrella of my world building, I make it fall under the undead, is all of them grouped together. Um, as far as like anything else, so like if you're building fantasy, your world building, the way I used to do, I actually used to have maps of my epic fantasy world called Solar, and each city I would, write the names of kings and queens, and then I would have, what the names of the roads were, what building and bars are, and I went into detail. You don't actually have to go into that much detail, but I drew my entire world, the continents, the languages, the history, hauntings of certain places. It creates such a vivid world that you know where you're gonna put your characters in, and you know what kind of plot you want to have revolving around a specific area. You can do that with Earth too. I don't know how much they do with, I don't know, world building. I think you said that you use world building more because of what you have here in Earth, right? You don't do very much world building.
I don't do much world building at all. I'm echoing again. Um, I
Well,
was
that's
waiting
all right.
to see if it quit echoing. Sorry about that. Um, mainly, I just write about what I know, and as far as the world I live in goes, I don't do a lot of world building. Well, Will is excellent at it, and he has no problem with it. Me, I'm just kind of starting to get into it with another book that I've got going on the side, and um, it's going to be some fantasy in that too, and a fantasy world. So I'll have to go to him to for advice and on how to do certain things.
And the one thing I was going to say, the reason that I do world building is because I like to create rules. Um, that's an important thing once you start writing or just starting to get into the world of writing is you have to have rules for your story. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place. You're not going to have one straight path to follow, basically a guideline. You have to write your guidelines, and then you can't break them. I know when me and Janelle are writing and we're co-authoring, I always reread what she's writing to make sure it falls under the guidelines of the rules. Because if you break those rules, you also break the trust that readers have in you. Because readers have already become, I guess, they dwelled into your story and they trust that you know what you're doing when you're writing these characters and you understand the rules that you created. And if you break your own rules, they think, oh, well, this guy can do whatever he wants. If you have a character that you set, and then your rules say that when a character dies, they're not supposed to come back, and all of a sudden you have a character that comes back, you broke a rule. That means, oh, well, they're invested in that character, but they say, well, we don't have nothing to worry about. If this character can die, it might be able to come back. That's kind of the most simplest terms. But as far as like in my world, like vampires cannot drink from animals, no matter what. The only way that they can get any kind of substance is by drinking from humans. And the reason I explain that is because the humans have a spiritual kind of bond toward, like going into my world is kind of religious in a way, but it connects to God in that sense. And that's how they're able to feed. So animal and blood and all that stuff won't work. Vampire, that's why Raven makes it complicated, because she has to kill humans and she doesn't want to.
Right.
And that's one of the rules that I make sure that they can't break. So.
Yeah, same with Lynn. She has to do her job as that darn echo.
Yeah, I can see that the internet is going down a little bit, but we're at past 20 minutes already. We're at 22 minutes, so I guess we're going to be ending here. We just wanted to give you a couple more tips. This is just our second episode. We're working on getting more tips for you, more future ideas and our escapades of writing. Try to teach you everything we've learned from our mistakes. Of course, there's probably other expert writers out there who are looking at us like, oh, we know all this already. But
so remember, a lot of this is for real beginners. I mean, just beginning.
Yeah.
All the other writers, they already know all this.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're a beginner writer or know any other people that are beginner writers, yeah, give us a like on our channel, follow us on YouTube. And of course, I'm going to be posting this on Facebook on my writing page. Janelle's still working on her stuff. So eventually she'll get it up and we'll have the video on her page as well. Yeah. But once again, thank you for tuning in. Our next video will be Thursday. And I think that's all from me. I don't know if you had anything else. No,
just keep writing.
All right. Well, there y'all have it. Everybody keep writing, and we'll see you next time. Bye.